Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Yep.
Good. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. I think. Okay, I think I did it. We can wait maybe a minute for folks to.
I got assigned to the wrong breakout room.
Oh no. I think there's a leave button, right?
Yeah, you can leave.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure that out. Sorry.
Yeah, if you leave the room, you're going to be sent back to the main group, and then Stephanie and I think Chris Vogelstein will be there, and then you can ask them to be reassigned.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, maybe we can do introductions real quick while we're waiting for folks to join us. My name is Jen Wood, and I'm working with the city on some of the bikeway design corridors, so helping out tonight. Eileen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Eileen Yazzie. I work at Denver Department of Transportation Infrastructure. I'm the planning manager as part of the mobility team.
Let's see.
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Evan. I am the manager at Ratio Clothing, which is at 16th and Boulder.
Okay.
So, manager stuff.
Good to meet you.
Hello.
I'm Samantha Larkins. I own Metal Mark right next door to Ratio, right at the corner of 16th and Boulder as well.
Right. Okay.
Ryan and John, do you want to?
Ryan, you can introduce yourself.
I'm hiding here in the shadows. Ryan Mulligan, I'm with the city team as well. I'll be taking notes of our conversation today.
Great. Looks like we have one more. John?
Hi, John Rickey. I'm just a resident and bicyclist.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for joining our breakout room.
And I will give a small, if I can, Jen, I'm going to give a small shout out. I am in no way representing but Scarlett Salon. We can thank them for my awesome haircut. And I have, they're also part of this quarter. Just wanted to note that they are not in attendance, but I'm a frequent visitor.
I was going to mention your haircut. Glad you did.
Yes, so this they are on Central.
Good to know. Good to know. So I'll go ahead and get us kicked off. So as Chris mentioned, this little segment of Tejon is not part of, it is part and not part of the what I call the northern segment of Tejon, north of 32nd. That one has undergone kind of the planning stage, the data gathering. You know, they've looked at alternatives and have developed a preferred concept design alternative. And that's kind of what they're presenting tonight to the business owners. This segment of Tejon, south of 32nd, while, you know, it was looked at several years ago through the Denver Moves studies and recommended as a protected bike lane, this segment has not gone through the data gathering and analysis and the planning yet. But it's a critical link. I think everyone would agree that, you know, with the proposed bikeway north of 32nd, this segment currently has bike lanes that then tie into a critical link into downtown Denver. So it is something that we plan to take a closer look at, gather some data, engage business owners, look at existing land uses and parking. And, you know, part of the purpose of tonight's meeting is to meet with some of the business owners and get some input.
Okay, so there's no, as of now, there's not a plan to put a bumpered bike lane in on our hill.
It, you know, in terms of the Denver Moves study, Eileen, you might need to jump in. I don't know when that study started and ended. I want to say it was a year or two ago. This corridor was part of that study. And the recommendation at that time was protected bike lane. But again, it hasn't, while it was incorporated into that study, we wouldn't start with that and go straight to design. We would still need to gather the data about parking, curb uses, safety, you know.
Yeah, sure. One of the things, so in the Denver Moves plan for bicycles, we recognize that it's a current bike lane. It is noted as the recommended Denver facility is a protected bike lane.
On one side or both sides?
On both sides. So that's the recommendation. And kind of to what Jen has indicated is that, and even on the screen is we have not done the data work yet about parking utilization. And while that's the data side of the house, the meeting tonight and our future meetings, talking to you and understanding your concerns, your uses on the curbside, that's what we really also want to get. So we're not here to say this is a done deal, this is going in, et cetera, like that. So we need to do both of those things. Understand the data, understand the users too of our bike lanes and our roadways, and then understand too those business needs. So, and then we would kind of, again, start looking at that collective information to move that decision forward. So I think that that's definitely going to be part of our discussion tonight and input is, and I think Ryan, I think you kind of have some cheat sheets for questions that I think we'll get into in a minute about understanding again, what's currently your use on the curbside and things like that.
Yeah, thanks, Eileen. Things we're certainly interested in knowing more about. You know, what are your loading zones? What do you need for accessible parking? Things like peak business hours, and just generally what input would you guys like to share before we even get into that kind of conceptual analysis of this segment.
Go ahead,
Evan,
Sam. Go ahead.
You want me to go there? We have zero parking anyway. We have absolutely nothing in Lodi that our customers can pull up in front of our businesses and park in that is free. You know, the lot across the street for the last 2 years has been swamped with construction workers for the building directly south of us. And it's been, quite frankly, a complete and total nightmare to have all of the parking closed from 16th and Boulder all the way down to Central at the bridge, and that parking lot then filled with a million construction workers. Then we hit 2020, you know, closed for 6 to 8 weeks, and between the construction and the lack of parking, it is just legitimately crushed our businesses. So to really think about, you know, going through the construction of putting in the bike lanes, and then B, losing the traffic, you know, from parking and making it easier for our customers to come and be right in front and pick something up, it would legitimately crush our businesses. And I think it would be a deal breaker for my business.
Right.
Yeah, I think the thing is that I know that the idea with bikes is that there are more bikers, so they could tend to bring more traffic. But you know, at the risk of sounding too snooty, you know, our clientele, you know, we're luxury brands, so the business that a bike brings may not be the business that somebody who drives a car brings.
Mm-hmm.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
Just our demographic. We love bikers. We want them in the store. I wish we had more bikers, but we don't see a lot. We don't see a lot of them. So I don't think they're like part of our demographic. So removing cars in places of bikes, that's not a proposition that is, at a minimum, is not helpful. And yeah, I mean, we've, as Sam mentioned, the building just next door to us has been in construction. We just got our sidewalk back. We just got our parking back like 2 weeks ago. And I can tell you that if the parking goes away again, I already know how that goes.
Yeah.
I've been there for the last 18 months, 20 months. Then, you know, it's a ghost town.
Can I ask some clarifying questions for both businesses?
Yep.
Are you, so just for my information, are you facing Boulder or are you facing 16th Street?
Kind of both. I'm on the corner. I'm kitty corner to Lola. So that's my building right where you have that. I'm right on the
Okay.
corner. And then Evan's directly like kind of south of me.
Got it.
I
And so
think-
related,
That's how-
and related to, as you mentioned earlier, and this is again clarification for our note taking and kind of again the input side of the house. So related with your businesses in those commercial structures, you do not have a parking lot that supports your effort?
No, we don't have a parking lot. And then something that I think is really important to note, which our landlord would note as well, that entire building is an apartment building and none of them have parking either.
Okay,
So-
so your
Nobody
first
does-
floor commercial, and then there's residential above.
Correct.
And there's some residential on the main floor as well, but none of the residents in that building have any parking either.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we heard about the parking lot that's on the northeast of you, or that area. Got it. That there's
What is
a lot
the intended
of pressure
use?
on that.
What is, other than for construction workers, what is the intended?
Oh,
use?
that's just for all the restaurants in the neighborhood. So Paul Tamburello
Yeah.
owns that lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's finally opened up a little bit. You can actually pull in there, but even though it's a pay lot, we couldn't even park in there for the entire construction. I couldn't even get a spot in there, even if I wanted to pay.
I wouldn't bank any of the plans on that parking lot being there. I you know, being in the neighborhood, I've heard rumors that they're gonna build on that within the next anyway.
Yeah,
Sure.
Paul's had plans for that lot for years and years and years and hasn't done stuff. And, you know, he's kind of a mover and shaker down there. And
Got it. But just
Mr. Lohan.
clarification that you guys, that the properties that you're renting and from do not offer parking as part of, okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Mhm.
And then one of the things too is Ryan or Jen, I think another area to ask is about peak. Evan, you have that clothing store. Is there a certain peak time? Morning, lunch, evening, just kind of
Yeah.
planning that peak use?
Yeah, well, lunches are always busy up here, or they would be normally. And then and then a happy hour again. It's going to be busy, and then we close at 7. So, but yeah, I would say lunches and happy hour are pretty busy. During non-COVID times, it's always full. Like, I do have the occasion to ride my bike sometimes work, but mostly I drive, and it's pretty hard to find a parking place already. I mean, I have to go 8 blocks away sometimes to park. That's why COVID's been so nice. That's one benefit.
One benefit, we can park.
Yeah.
And then Samantha, what about you? Is there a certain hour of the day or week too as well with peak or?
I would say I'm kind of in the same boat as Evan. You know, we're really busy, Thursday, Friday, Saturday when people are coming out to eat. We also do a fair amount of business. We're open on Sundays during busy season. We've closed during COVID, but in general, we've been open on Sundays, and we see bridal brunch traffic. So people coming in to get engagement rings on Sundays. And that's been big for us too. But really we're based around the restaurants in the neighborhood, people coming to eat and popping in to see us.
Okay.
Kind of along those lines, are there particular loading zones that you rely on or not? Sometimes loading zones can be used to pull in, grab something from a store, pull out, drop something off. Do you guys rely on those along the stretch?
The fire hydrant,
Yeah, I think they only have
People park in front of the fire hydrant.
The only like,
Everyone, every single person that needs to run in parks in front of the fire hydrant.
yeah, only the edges of whatever the distance is between the end of the street and the no parking sign. People use those to load and unload, but nothing officially for that. Nothing made for that. I don't think. I think I don't know if they. I guess I have seen loading zones in front of some of the apartment buildings. So they just they just built one. So I don't know if they'll add a loading zone and take away the parking space there for a loading zone in front of that building. But right now, yeah, there's no loading zones.
Okay. And then another question that I have just related to, I don't know, traffic, pedestrians, cyclists, any, kind of consistent observations that you have in terms of like, as it relates to safety?
We've seen several
you guys
major accidents at that cross street.
I would say that in general, just the nature of the hill at 16th and then at the bottom at Central, I mean, just from a like general concern about everybody's safety. Me when I ride a bike, me when I drive a car, Central and 16th is like a very busy intersection. And now you've got, the scooters as well that come flying through the intersection there. I would say it's fairly dangerous for everybody at the very bottom of the hill. And then just at 16th and Boulder, very rarely, at the risk of throwing my fellow bikers under the boat here, do people give a full stop before they fly through the intersection.
The bikers do not stop at that intersection, and 16th Street on the west side is one way. That whole intersection is a very dangerous. I mean, I've seen, I think in the 5 years I've leased down there, I've seen 3 people hit by cars on bikes at that intersection because the bikers don't stop.
And which intersection is that? Is that
right at 16th and Boulder, right in front of Lola there?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's a guy that used to ride in his wheelchair bike flying through that intersection, and he goes like 40 miles an hour down that hill, and I think all the time he's gonna get just creamed, and he goes straight through from Little Man up at the corner of 30th and Tejon all the way through that intersection.
But again, at the bottom of the hill at Central and 16th, you've got people coming off the pedestrian bridge, you have scooters coming off the pedestrian bridge, you have bikers coming off the pedestrian bridge, and then you have everybody coming down the hill very fast. So I mean, I can't see that intersection from here, but it's a little sketchy to navigate as well.
Right. And then what about for pedestrians? I mean, there's certainly a lot of pedestrian traffic through here as well.
The sidewalks are pretty wide and spacious.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think they've probably done the best, and that's why we're here, because the pedestrian bridge is down at the bottom of the hill, so we want that, as much of that traffic as we can get to keep pedestrians flowing through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a typical section of this is existing, right? So you've got the 5-foot bike lanes and the parking. 6-foot sidewalks. Any issues with vehicles? Just conflicts with vehicles and bikes, or vehicles and each other? Just speeds?
Yeah, they hit my curb there like 10 times a day. They hit it, and wheels are, whatever, their hubcaps flying off constantly. I can't tell you how many hubcaps I've collected because people come flying up the hill, hit the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a treacherous hill when things are.
But they do hit it constantly.
When it snows.
Yeah, when it snows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think in general, I mean, there's nothing more than because of the nature of that one-way street, and then the people coming down. Lots of people go the wrong way down that one way right there.
Yeah.
And that in itself is kind of a dangerous one.
Yeah, and it's a busy 4-way, so you get the confusion about who goes first. Again, when things are very, very busy up here, you get the confusion about who goes first.
Yeah.
Right. This is all really helpful. Thank you. You know, you guys are the boots on the ground, and you guys see what happens on a day-to-day basis. We've got a new visitor, Christian. Hello.
Sorry, guys, a little late here.
No worries. I'm Jen. I'm working with the city on the bikeway corridors in the Northwest neighborhood, and helping out tonight on this little segment of Tejon. And we're, you know, just kind of having a conversation right now, kind of data gathering, getting some information. This segment hasn't gone through the conceptual design phase, so we don't have, you know, we haven't studied the traffic volumes and the speeds and the curb uses and accident data. We're not at that point yet. It's, you know, the northern stretch of Tejon has gone through that planning phase. And this is, you know, a pretty critical link between the northern part of Tejon and then the Ped Bridge into downtown. So just very early stages, trying to get some input and feedback from the business owners.
Sure. I'm not a business owner, so I don't know if you want my impact and feedback.
We'll take it. We'll take all input.
but I do. I live on 32nd and I work downtown, and at least if it's not snowy and icy and treacherous, I generally ride my bike up and down the street every day.
Okay.
So maybe a slightly different perspective.
Yep.
I think that Samantha and Evan are totally right. There's a lot of confusion at 16th and Boulder and Central and 16th, and it's kind of a disaster. You know, I mean, obviously I live, you know, on 32nd between Shoshone and Tejon. So I drive through there, I bike through there, I walk through there all the time, multiple times a day usually. And it really isn't great for anybody, I don't think. You know, Central and 16th is like, sometimes, you know, there's a little confusion of who goes first. Sometimes people are just too polite and let everyone, you know, like if you're riding your bike up the bridge, just roll through, which is nice, but then, you know, is adding just general confusion, right? Because you don't really know if people are going to stop or what they're going to do. And so I stop usually, but then they'll wave you through and you're like, okay, great, thanks. But 16th and Boulder is kind of a mess. And it's, I mean, there's pedestrian traffic there. There's, you know, they're right with like the one-way, two-way issue. You know, usually I go through at like 6 in the morning and usually come back in mid-afternoon. So the traffic's not really bad.
Right.
So, you know, I can't really comment on what that's like going through there, but I will say that like coming down, I think specific, well, actually the whole stretch really, when you're going down into town on a bike can be a little nerve wracking because, you know, the lanes are narrow, and because of the hill, you know, you're picking up speed. And, you know, I'm always worried about someone opening a car door in front of you or all that, which means that you end up kind of just riding in the car lane, you know? So I don't know, you know, you guys said you haven't gone that far through it. And, you know, obviously it's a tight neighborhood. There's a lot going on, but, you know, I think down in, kind of like North Cap Hill or something, there's sort of on the uphill side, there's kind of like a fantastic buffered bike lane, and then there's no bike lane on the downhill side. So, you know, if it's kind of a try to squeeze everything into the width situation, right? Maybe something like that would make sense, because the bikers can easily, you know, generally speaking, I mean, you know, use more of the width. And if you're trying to limit, you know, the total width taken, you know, the hill climb is obviously a bit more important, having the extra space there so cars don't get stuck behind. And then, you know, half the time when I'm going down the street anyway, I'll just ride in the regular lane, because, you know, I don't want to get smashed by a car door or someone opening it, and it's downhill, like a fairly steep downhill, so there's no problem with like blocking traffic or maintaining speed or whatever, you know.
Yeah, when I'm parking there, I'm scared. Like you know, if you're going too fast, like getting in your car and whatever, I mean, I have gotten so nervous about opening my door and just taking a biker out, you know, because it's really easy to do. You're just in a hurry and you don't expect them to be coming as fast as you are. It makes me so nervous.
Yeah, because people, and if you don't ride down that hill every day, you don't really realize how much speed you get going down that hill so quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my 2 cents. It's really on sort of the danger of that more than
Yeah.
anything else, I
So,
think.
yeah, I think your perspective is interesting from a safety point of view, right? So you don't want to get car doored. So you jump into the lane downhill. I get that.
Mhm.
But so as a biker going uphill, you're going much slower. So you don't want to be in traffic going uphill.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that creates all sorts of issues, right? You're blocking people behind you and everyone's getting frustrated and no one's happy. And, we don't want to be in that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think one of my big takeaways or that I'm hearing right now from a lot of the people that are participating in the conversation is Boulder and 16th and then 16th and Central. Just in general, those are safety concerns for all users of our right of way, pedestrian, two-way, speed, and then you've got the hill. So just kind of that mix of items just makes it, unsafe and confusing.
Mhm.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like this morning, for instance, I was coming down 16th, just about to get to Central, and there's a driver in front of me. Driver's not using their turn signal, and they basically just decide to use like the bike lane as a turn lane. It's like, thanks.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a very common.
It's super common, right? But
Yeah.
can be fixed quite easily. I mean, relatively easily by some concrete.
Yes, I think those, yeah. So definitely, and I think Denver in general, we're definitely looking from our Vision Zero perspective. We really are, and this, I will say this meeting, I'm not going to come up and start drawing up or talking about solutions. This is really the input. So again, thank you. But yes, there's definitely solutions out there that put vertical elements to help again. And people, a lot of drivers are like, oh, they're in my way, or they hit them, or things like that. And it's really to help clearly define where everyone's supposed to be. Because, you put paint down the road, people are going to go in and out of those lanes. But if you start using some delineators that are more vertical, it definitely does clearly delineate for the safety of all users in that roadway. And I think, as a bicyclist, driver, walker, transit user, it definitely helps so that I'm like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And then as well as, the driver's like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. So it's definitely one of those areas, but just hearing all of this definitely concerns at those intersections. So I think that that's something for Denver and the consulting team to look at those turning movements, understand the crash history.
Eileen,
And think.
I'm sorry, this is John. Before we get
Hi,
booted
John.
out of here, I wanted to speak really quickly.
Yeah.
I agree with Christian about the safety. The few times I've ridden this street, it's being in the door zone is awful going up or down. There are large intersections on the Tejon part where they're complicated and the bike lane disappears for large periods of time. That's awful to try and get through. Also, since this is supposed to be a major link from downtown to this side of Denver, I think it's very important to keep as much safety and protection as are in there as we can, so we don't just get the middle-aged guys like me using it, but everyone else has the opportunity to bike as well. That was it. Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks, everyone. I think we got really good input tonight, and I don't know how this works, but we might just we can leave the breakout room.
Yeah.
They will all close in 41 seconds.
Before we go, I just want to reiterate, I'm all for everyone's safety, absolutely, but I don't, and I do want the corridor to be there, but I don't want to lose parking spaces.
Yeah.
If you need parking, this is probably not the place to be.
Great, but yeah, it will kill our business.
And it sounds like the guy with the parking lot needs to up his rates so there's places to go.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like the guy who owns the lot needs to up his rates so there's actually open spaces there.
I'm not catching it. I don't understand.
Just to note that everyone is remuted when you enter the breakout or the main room. So for our speakers too.
There we go. I think, welcome back, everybody. If you came back, you'll be muted automatically. So if you need, if you're presenting or something, let me know. What we want to do now, we had a great chat in our breakout room, and it was really informative, and appreciated the civil tone and everything, and just good to get feedback. I think what we want to do is just kind of go around to the breakout room leaders and just get a quick high level take on, you know, what the discussion was like, maybe a couple key issues, and maybe what's left in the parking lot. Like what are some ideas that came up for us to look at. So why don't we start with Michael Koslow in breakout room 1.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, so we had a chance to talk with a couple folks between 39th and 46th Avenue, Lily's Bath and Biscuits, the Highlands Health, and the Colorado Legal, I'm sure I'm going to butcher it, Defense Fund, and also a resident and on the corridor. Some of the things that we heard, despite the best of my hoping, there's very few patrons of the businesses that arrive on bike. In reality, there's a lot of needs for loading for the businesses. Obviously for a health clinic, folks would need to have the ability to be able to get to the business without having to go across the street, that kind of thing. Another issue that came up had to do with the maintenance of the bike lanes themselves. We kind of talked about, hey, once we install these as a city, we're going to have to plow them, sweep them, make sure that they are able to be used. And I think that's probably, those are the key 2 issues that we had in number 1.
Super. Thanks, Michael. And just so everybody knows, we're going to capture all these notes and share back out to everybody, so you'll be able to see what we talked about in every group and kind of get that full picture. So I was the leader of breakout room 2, which was 35th to 39th. We had a few residents and a few businesses there, and had I thought a really good discussion about the dilemma, or sort of I guess it's a dilemma, but wanting to have better bike facilities versus the impacts to local business and parking. The kind of big themes in ours were that 38th is really a barrier in this segment. So you can't really think of parking north of 38th as really serving the place south of 38th, because 38th is so busy and people don't feel safe crossing. And then there isn't any parking on 38th. So the businesses right in that, right there near 38th, are really dependent on Tejon right now, and the side street parking isn't that useful to them. Some of the ideas that we had, I'll just say a couple. So we had asked to look at, could we combine some traffic calming elements with the bike lane elements? People were really interested in a stop sign at 37th because the speeds are so high from leaving 38th heading south on Tejon, and trying to address that. And maybe that was a way we could work together to try to find some common ground. But yeah, the common ground was, we really like bikes. We want them to be able to be safe and go, but we need to survive. And please help us figure that out together. So that was breakout room 2. Breakout room 3 was Geneva.
Thanks. It's really fun seeing everyone's faces. So we had a really good group, maybe 15 of us, 20, and great conversation. Definitely lots of concerns with the parking, and already feeling like parking is challenging on Tejon. And we mostly had residents in our group, and people who live really close to 35th and Tejon and see kind of all of the bridal shop and the little bars and restaurants there that are bringing a lot of people, and also meaning that there are certainly some parking concerns. Heard a lot about safety with for staff who might work late at night and are trying to then get to their cars. Decent amount of conversation about routes and saying maybe Shoshone makes more sense. But if we do that, how do we link that to other bikeways? A couple of people talked about that east-west routes in Denver tend to be pretty good, and it's those north-south routes that are lacking. Really good conversation about the quick pickups that people see with Uber and Lyft and Grubhub and needing to use curb space in different ways. And then talking about kind of the busy times that people are seeing in that area of definitely commuting, but also evenings and weekends, and recently maybe more so for lunches as well. So that's what we heard.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Geneva. That's a good summary. And then Breakout Group 4, which was the 16th piece, Jen.
Yes. So our segment is a little different. It hasn't gone through the planning phase like what I call the northern segment of Tejon. We haven't gone through the data gathering to really look at traffic speeds, volumes, curb uses, accident data. So our discussion tonight was, I think, really insightful to talk to some of the business owners from Ratio and Metal Mark, and to get their perspective. You know, they're on the ground floor there. They see what's happening on the corridor every day. So we certainly had a good discussion about, you know, parking, a continued theme along this corridor, and really safety. I think lots of concerns about, you know, how do you find that balance? We talked to folks who bike this corridor, and we talked to folks who while they have businesses on the corridor and really rely on parking for the viability of their business, they also see, you know, a lot of safety concerns, particularly at 16th and Boulder and 16th and Central, kind of safety issues for everybody in those intersections. So I thought really good conversation about the different uses along this segment, and priorities for folks who use it.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, that's really good and interesting, because I know that concept, you really have a firm concept, so it's good to get a lot of input that we can feed into that development process. So I'm going to share my screen again. So I just want to spend a few minutes talking about how to stay engaged, what's going to happen next, and that this just emphasize this isn't the last time or the only time that we're going to talk. I know it might feel like things are moving fast, but we intend to engage you guys and really try to problem solve this and figure out what is the best thing to do for everybody. So let me pull this up, and Geneva, maybe I have you kind of lead this discussion about how do we stay connected.
Definitely. So we have office hours, and you can sign up you go online to the bit.ly Denver Moves networks. We have a ton of information there. You'll find it for all 3 of the networks, and you can find recordings of previous meetings. You can find concept designs, and that's also where you can sign up for office hours. We have a general inbox, Denver Moves at denvergov.org, and a project hotline. The email is probably the better way to contact us. We also look at the hotline, but the email seems to just go a little bit faster. And after tonight's meeting, we will provide you with a Q&A, recordings, and certainly better and more opportunities for engagement over the next couple of months. We also have resources for business support from the Denver Economic Development Opportunity Office. And we will be adding everyone's emails into our grander inform list, so you can stay up to date on all the project happenings from here on out.
Let me, I have one more slide to share at the final, but I want to recognize Councilwoman Sandoval. Sorry we didn't recognize at the beginning. I didn't see you in the meeting at first. I think you might have joined after, but feel free, go ahead. I know you had something you wanted to say.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Geneva. So I just wanted to say thank you all who joined virtually. I know that it was a change of plans, and it's different talking on this type of platform instead of actually talking in the built environment and being out there, hearing you and getting suggestions. So I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you, and thank you to the project team. We really are doing our best to make sure that we're getting information out. And I just, as if you don't know, my family owns La Casita. We've owned and operated that restaurant for most of my life. My dad started it before I was even born. So small businesses are really important to me. And as these numbers climb with COVID, and as we start seeing more cases than when we even had the first initial stay-at-home order, I just want you all to know, who own a small business on this call and who have been impacted, that I have the most respect and utmost respect for the work that you're doing, and how you make Northwest Denver such an amazing place to work and live. And I really hope that we can come to a good conclusion with this corridor and find something that works for all of us, and not just some of us, but all of us. And in that vein, I've found throughout the work that I've done, sometimes we don't make everybody happy, but we have to come to some type of consensus. So I just want to please stay engaged. Thank you for those who have signed up to, for the Denver Moves at denvergov.org. I'm in constant contact with the project team. But if you need to reach out to me and you feel like you need to have your voice heard, sometimes not everybody can speak up in these type of situations. So if you want to have a one-off with me, just feel free to contact me. And I just want to say thank you, Dottie, for transitioning to this Zoom call as quickly as we could. As we all know, COVID has impacted the minority community disproportionately than any other community. And although we may not see a lot of Latinos on this call, Northwest Denver still does have a lot of Latinos. And so this is a scary time for all of us. So I know everyone's doing the best that we can right now, given we have a global pandemic. And I just want to say thank you all for showing up. I know this isn't the most exciting way to spend your Thursday evening, but I really appreciate it. Hearing from my constituents and hearing from my community, that's why I ran, is to listen to you all and to attempt to mitigate issues that come forward. So thank you all.
Thanks. Thank you, Councilwoman Sandoval. Appreciate those remarks. Those are good closing remarks, I think. There's, oops, sorry. There's one more slide I wanted to bring up for you here, just so I'll just leave this up as we close so that you have clear access. You can take a picture of this or a screenshot or whatever. Please reach out to us. Please stay engaged. We'll try to make it as easy as possible. We're totally willing to talk to everybody one-on-one. And we are, just like Councilwoman Sandoval said, we're trying to find something that works for everybody and meets the goals of Denver to increase mobility and safety and make things work for everybody. So thanks everybody for your time. I'm sure we'll talk again soon, and have a good evening.
Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Night.
No idea how to do it. So they're doing kind of like their community meetings on it, see what they can do.
Yeah, if you want us, you can have one of those papers and sign in to the next one.
Oh, for sure,
Well,
yeah.
there's this thing too that's
It's like a QR code that you can take the picture
well,
of.
that and it gives you like all the
Oh, and there's one that you write
addresses and
email.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, if you're gonna like snap a photo of that, for sure.
like this one's like from like the actual city, and this
Yeah.
one's like from the organization that's trying to prevent it from
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was interested, like,